Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us here on the 3 p.m. streaming hour of Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines, live with you here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom, where we've had a lot of news breaking this afternoon just before we've come to you on our stream today. A huge SWAT situation unfolding near East Point today, and the capture, we understand, of that one remaining prisoner, that escapee from a New Orleans prison back in May. You remember when 10 prisoners escaped? Well, there was one left, and he's apparently been captured right here in the metro Atlanta area. Deidre Dukes is on the scene where this all happened. We're talking, Deidre, about Derek Groves. He is the last of those 10 men to be captured in dramatic fashion right there near East Point.
That's right, and months on the run, all coming to an end here at Delow Drive and West Cedar Lane here in southwest Atlanta, just up the street here. A lot of police activity going on here just beyond the police tape down the street. You see there the house there, the gray brick mason house with the brown roof there, and the white fence, that basement door open. That is where about an hour ago Atlanta police, joined by the U.S. Marshal Service, did pull him out of that house. Now, this culminating after the fugitive having been on the run for several months. Now, this happened after an hours-long SWAT standoff here. Neighbors reporting to Fox 5 that this all started this morning when SWAT units rolled in along with APD officers. Atlanta SWAT rolling in with APD officers, cordoning off this stretch of West Cedar Lane off of Delow Drive in southwest Atlanta. Neighbors saying an officer got on the bullhorn out front of the residence, called for that wanted fugitive Derek Groves to surrender to authorities. Now, 27-year-old Groves was one of 10 inmates who broke out of jail in New Orleans back in May. He was the last remaining fugitive who was still at large. He managed to elude authorities for months before being captured at this home in Atlanta this afternoon. Now, our photographer Eric Len captured exclusive images of Groves being brought out of the house in handcuffs by law enforcement about an hour ago. Atlanta police assisting the U.S. Marshal Service this afternoon in this operation. Groves was serving time after being convicted of killing 2 people during a Mardi Gras party back in 2024 in New Orleans. So again, just major developments here this afternoon after an operation which unfolded here throughout the morning into the afternoon. Again, that fugitive from justice from New Orleans back in custody, captured here in southwest Atlanta, Tom, this afternoon.
Incredible. So many incredible facets to this story. What New Orleans officials originally characterized as a historic escape by these 10 men back in May. This last remaining prisoner captured in that East Point area, brought out as we saw. Our cameras were there and rolling as he was brought out of that house. It's incredible the speed by which authorities captured this guy, the fact that it went off with without anyone being injured there. And we had calls right here into the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom from people who lived in that neighborhood who said, hey, something might be going down here.
That's right. Those calls began coming into our newsroom early this morning, mid-morning, I should say. And, Tom, I spoke to a neighbor a short time ago. She was here just beyond the police tape, waiting to be allowed to return to her home. She said she was here this morning when she heard the police activity, heard a boom. She said she heard all types of activity a few doors down from her home. She said she was surprised because she thought that the house was vacant. She said she had not seen any activity at that residence. She said this type of thing just doesn't happen in this community. She described it as a quiet community, saying she's lived here for several years. And so for something like this to happen in a home that she believed to be vacant, she, of course, has a lot of questions, just like the rest of us. She's wondering if the house was, in fact, vacant, or perhaps if someone actually did live at the home, perhaps left the area for some time to assist groups Groves possibly, and then return here with him, where he, apparently was hiding out at this residence, or at least was at the residence today. Again, that's just speculation on the neighbors' parts. We do not know. Tom, police are going to hold a news conference shortly nearby to provide more details on this ongoing operation and investigation.
Well, we'll certainly be there for that. Deidre, thanks for that live report. Speaking of news conferences, want to get you right to New Orleans, where there's a news conference happening right now among officials there about this capture of this last prison inmate that escaped back in May. Let's listen in.
Brian Fair and the U.S. Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service has just really gone above and beyond when we have multi-jurisdictional issues. There have been a number of cases in which they've weighed in quite heavily, working with the NOPD and all of our federal and state and local partners and Troop NOLA to try to find him when he was here. Obviously, they had a bit of a lead time and when that was reported to law enforcement partners and the press, and he was able to make good his escape for 5 months. But I think you may remember Brian Fair saying a number of times, Derek Groves has to get lucky every single time, and law enforcement has to get lucky once. And that happened today, thank God.
And the fact that all of these inmates were recovered, were taken into custody without any injury, anyone shot, anybody hurt.
I think a lot of people were. Let me speak for myself. I was deeply concerned that someone that had been convicted of a double homicide and was supposed to be in Angola would not go easily. I was afraid that there would be loss of life, whether it be civilian or law enforcement. And I don't think we thank Derek Groves for that. I think we thank God for that he was taken into custody without injury.
DA, if you could, I know this is sort of the very beginning. I mean, Derek Groves captured, that's one thing, but how did he get to Atlanta, and if he had any help along the way, that's something that investigators are going to be looking into.
Look, I'm not going to, I don't spend too much time on this because these folks are here to celebrate a monumental accomplishment for the city of New Orleans, just as this arrest was. Obviously, Chris, if you go to Atlanta later on today, you're going to have some help. Whether it's an Uber driver, whether it's getting some gas, whether it is catching a flight. He obviously had some help. And there will be a thorough investigation to any and everybody that helped him along the way in whatever parish and whatever county that assistance came.
Last question, what charging decisions do you have right now?
I don't want to address that at this point, Paul. It's a little too soon. But thank you all for being here today to focus on 31-1 Burgundy Street. We're standing here at what appeared to be, or appeared to the public to be, a retail business called Culture Fashion. Today I stand with some
New Orleans District Attorney Jason Williams talking about the arrest of Derek Groves, the last of 10 prison inmates that escaped from the New Orleans prison system last May. He was in jail awaiting a life sentence at the time of the jailbreak for 2 counts of second-degree murder. He was captured in the East Point area by SWAT officials and led out of that building. There is the moment that Derek Groves was led out of that house, hands tied behind his back by the SWAT team who captured him. The district attorney, for his part, saying that he's surprised that it didn't go down without any injuries or loss of life. After all, Groves is awaiting a life sentence and was at the time of his break, and that he was convinced that Groves wouldn't go, quote, easily. Well, it appears he was taken into custody without incident today in our own area here in Atlanta of what authorities described as a historic jailbreak that happened back in New Orleans back in May. We want to show you some live pictures there of the scene. There are microphones set up. We're waiting the Atlanta Police Department to approach to sort of tell us how all of this went down. So many unanswered questions here in terms of how Derek Groves got to our area. Did he have an enabler? Did he have help? These are all the sorts of questions that authorities are going to be working through, especially in New Orleans, where he'll undoubtedly be extradited to officials there to face new charges now of escaping from prison as he awaited his sentencing. Well, speaking of jails, now to Jail Watch here in our own area. We've been covering all kinds of troubling stories at the Fulton County Jail for what seems like forever. Today, there's word of an arrest of a jail employee, but this time in Clayton County. Angelique Proctor working a tip that she got. And Angelique, what happened today?
Well, good afternoon to you, Tom. The Clayton County Sheriff says he is very disappointed about these arrests. Not one, but two corrections officers now behind bars, as well as an inmate. But the sheriff made it clear there is no blue line of silence here. He says he is going to make sure that everyone is following the law. And in this case, it is two lawmen who stand accused tonight. So let's take a look at their pictures. This is former corrections officer Ashley Victoria Lewis Allen. She was hired in February of this year and has admitted to receiving monetary payments on 3 separate occasions from an inmate. Now, the contraband includes things like bulk cigarettes, multiple packages of marijuana, methamphetamines, THC-infused edibles. The second officer is a canine officer. He is Kayshawn Branch. He was observed on his county-issued body camera with a bag of individually wrapped tobacco. He placed that in a certain area. They were looking on the surveillance cameras, went to that area and found the contraband. Both officers are now under arrest and facing numerous felony charges. Take a listen.
It is tough because it's just a reminder that we still, after all the warnings from the sheriff, after the warnings from other command, after officers being arrested, even in our roll calls, that people are still willing to put themselves at risk and other officers at risk, inmates at risk, to bring contraband into the jail.
And what kind of contraband are we talking about?
We're talking about everything from cell phone chargers, cigarettes, illegal narcotics, marijuana, methamphetamines.
And the captain tells me this contraband goes for high dollar, Tom. I was really surprised. A cell phone charger can go for $1,500. He said a cell phone itself, an inmate would be willing to pay $2,000 to $3,000 for a cell phone. Now, we were curious, how are the officers getting this contraband into the jail? No doubt they have to go through a metal detector. He explained that part of it.
We have a checkpoint, but the problem is if you put something completely on your person, it's difficult to find that in a checkpoint. If you put tobacco, per se, the checkpoint's not going to pick that up. It picks up metals. So it's very difficult if a person who works for the jail, who's entrusted through an oath of office to not do those things, want to bring it in. It's really hard to keep those type of things out.
So they're concealing it in their underwear?
Yes. Yeah.
In both cases?
Undergarments. I don't know the specifics on these. It's still too early to tell the exact way that these two particular individuals have done these cases, but that's typically how they do it. They hide it, inside of their underclothes and then walk through the scanner, and it's not really detected. A lot of the narcotics aren't going to be detected that way.
And I talked with Clayton County Sheriff Levon Allen last night. He told me that the female corrections officer was accused of having the drugs in her bra when she went through. So like the captain said, they use undergarments very much so to hide these things. The other thing that we learned is that an inmate is also arrested. He was charged because he had possession of the contraband that former Officer Branch brought into the jail. So at this point, 3 people have been arrested, but the sheriff says this investigation continues and there may very well be additional arrests. Tom?
Well, on the one hand, Angelique, it's troubling to hear these kinds of things, but on the other hand, it's good to hear at least Clayton County officials are on top of the situation. They're looking at folks inside their own jail and how all of this happens and getting them out of there so that this kind of behavior won't continue to happen. Angelique Proctor live for us in Clayton County. Angelique, thanks. Want to take you back live to the scene where an incredible capture happened earlier today. We were one of the first crews on the scene in East Point where an escapee from New Orleans, the last of 10 that broke out of jail last May, has finally been captured. And what authorities described as a historic jailbreak. This guy was in jail on double murder charges, and he was awaiting what officials describe as a life sentence. Well, now he's headed back to jail. Authorities still gathered there. They're about to hold a news conference, and as soon as that happens, we will take it live. Good afternoon. I'm Tom Haines, live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. We're so glad that you're here streaming with us on Fox Local. We appreciate you watching this afternoon, where we've been covering a lot of breaking news all afternoon long, which culminated in the start of our stream here at 3 p.m. We've been live on the scene in East Point, where in dramatic fashion, the last of 10 men who escaped a New Orleans prison is now recaptured. He was awaiting a life sentence at the time of the jailbreak for 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 separate manslaughter convictions. We heard from the district attorney out in New Orleans not too long ago in a live news conference. We are now set up waiting to hear from Atlanta police as to how this capture went down. How did they know that Derek Groves was hiding out inside that house? How did he get there? Was he enabled by anyone? These are all the questions hopefully reporters there assembled at this news conference are going to ask Atlanta police if they happen to know the answers. But now Gratefully, Derek Groves is back in police custody. He was walked out of the house earlier today, something that you saw streaming here with us in the 3 p.m. hour. This is video of that happening. Our cameras were there and rolling as the capture took place. The district attorney saying that he's grateful that this didn't go down in a very different way as Derek Groves feared for his life in this life sentence. Let's listen to Atlanta police as they begin this news conference.
Southeast Fugitive Task Force, in conjunction with the Atlanta Police Department and the Clayton County Police Department, were able to take Derek Groves, 28 years old, into custody here on Honeysuckle Lane. Mr. Groves was wanted for escape from the Orleans Parish Jail in May of this year. He was convicted earlier in the state of Louisiana for 2 counts of murder. We are so thankful for the bravery and courage of all the officers involved in this operation. He is the 10th of 10 individuals to be taken into custody from the Orleans Parish incident.
All right, everyone, we don't have a lot of information that we can provide, but we will allow for some questions.
What challenges did you face trying to get him out of there? See, the SWAT did a lot of damage to the home.
That's correct. Our SWAT team, with all their training and experience, they were able to bring him out. We deployed a number of canisters of gas to help move him throughout the house, which he moved to the basement of the house. Soon after, Clayton County K-9 was deployed in the crawl space of the location and found him in that crawl space.
Can you talk to us about how you even knew he was here? Was this a tip that came in? How did you guys find him?
No, I can't talk about that. Maybe the U.S. Marshal Service can talk about that.
Is that something you can talk about?
Is this the house of somebody?
Hold on for me 1 second. Please allow me to finish. Limka, is that something you can address, that question?
Briefly, not many.
You can come to the mic. This is Frank Limka. I will give you the spelling of his name afterwards, but this is Frank Limka with the U.S. Marshal Southeast Regional Task Force, Fugitive Task Force.
So ever since the escape, which was in May, the U.S. Marshals in New Orleans, along with several other departments, started basically a task force just for this case and have spent thousands of hours working tons of leads. We can't say exactly what brought us here, but it was a very thorough investigation, mainly by our New Orleans marshals, and then they sent us information which we corroborated and was able to locate him at this location.
All right, now we'll take the next question.
Did he know the person that lived in this house?
I'm not sure of that information.
Were there weapons in the home?
We're still investigating that at this time.
Do we know anything about an initial appearance? Is he going to be extradited and have his first appearance?
I don't have that information at this time.
Somebody may have asked this, Chief, but can you say how long he's been here? You think he's been here?
The U.S. Marshals would have that information. I don't have that information.
Was there anybody else in the house?
Was there anyone else inside? No, there was not anyone else inside.
All right, thank you, everyone. As I stated before, we have limited information on this. Please be mindful this still is an active investigation. All of the details that we can release
Atlanta police giving us the information that they can about what happened this morning in East Point, the capture of the final of 10 escaped New Orleans prisoners. This time, Derek Groves, accused in a double homicide, was on the run since May. The 9 others had been captured. Groves was still on the run, and he was captured right here in our area, in the East Point area. Officials did describe how this went down, that he was found in the crawl space of that house where they moved in and captured him by a canine, which was deployed into the crawl space, and then found Groves hiding down there, and then they were able to extricate him and bring him out. SWAT, APD, the U.S. Marshals from New Orleans all coordinated in this effort. The official there saying that they've spent thousands and thousands of man-hours trying to capture Groves, who you see being walked out of that house. This only happened within the past couple of hours. We began to hear rumblings of what was happening in the early earlier hours, I should say, here in our newsroom when we got calls from people who lived in that neighborhood saying, hey, there's a lot of police activity here, and we're hearing that this may be one of the prisoners from New Orleans. Of course, we worked to confirm all that information and wound up doing so. We were one of the first crews there on the scene of this, and so it culminated in the capture of Derek Groves there in the East Point area. We'll, of course, continue to stay on top of that situation and bring you more information as we get it. Well, as you know, we're in the middle of a government shutdown. Lawmakers in Washington cannot seem to agree on terms to reopen the government, and that is affecting a whole plethora of things across the federal government system, not least of which is air travel. You know, Atlanta is home to the world's busiest airport, and that's where we find Fox 5's Tyler Finger. Tyler, we're talking about air traffic controllers. We're talking about TSA agents not getting paid while all this is going on, some of them choosing to call out sick. So the question is, how's this affecting travelers there at Hartsfield-Jackson?
Well, Tom, good afternoon to you. I'll tell you that while other airports are dealing with the staffing struggles, the world's busiest airport, Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, has come out unscathed so far. But I mean, this government shutdown has no sign of letting up as those in Washington, our lawmakers in Washington, continue to work to reach a deal to reopen the government. And those air traffic controllers here at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport are in the tower at this hour. Many of them working, all of them rather, are working without pay, no sign or no knowledge of when they might receive a paycheck, because next week is when they're supposed to be paid. But with the government shutdown, that will not happen. Across the country, staffing is a problem as controllers call out sick. On Monday, I want to show you some video. The tower at Hollywood Burbank Airport in California went dark for nearly 6 hours, and a different facility was forced to handle the planes. It was one of roughly 12 FAA locations impacted by staffing problems on Monday. The FAA reports Houston, Nashville, and Newark, among others, also dealt with staffing issues this week. And you don't need me to tell you this, but air traffic controllers are vitally important. They are the eyes in the sky at airports from coast to coast. But as the showdown continues in our nation's capital, these men and women are working without pay. As I mentioned at the top, the FAA has not reported any struggles here at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, but one of its other main facilities in the Atlanta area did have a problem this week. On Tuesday, the FAA reported staffing issues at the Atlanta Air Route Traffic Control Center in Hampton. The shutdown comes at a time when there's already a shortage of air traffic controllers. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the government shutdown is impacting operations as controllers work without pay. Take a listen.
I want to be clear. Do I think they're more stressed right now in our towers? Yes. Is our airspace unsafe? No. Right? If we think there's issues in the airspace, we will shut it down. We will close it down. We will delay. But again, it's creating a ripple effect for our controllers.
So you may be wondering, how do these staffing issues at air traffic control facilities?
Yes.
Yeah, and so obviously you just heard from Secretary Sean Duffy there. He's talking about the issues that these air traffic controllers are dealing with. He talked about the stress. I mean, they're already under stress. Many of them working our mandatory overtime because they are short-staffed. And what I can tell you is that you may be wondering, how does this affect you if you're flying, if you're traveling? Well, with less air traffic controllers, maybe at this facility or other facilities throughout the country, you are not going to be able to fly maybe the schedule that the airlines had planned months ago or over a year ago, because with less controllers, they're going to have maybe less flights going, which means it's going to be having delays and cancellations. We don't know how this will happen or how this will impact until basically the day of, if controllers call out sick. We know back in 2019, there was definitely, during that month-long shutdown, there were definitely impacts to air travel as these air traffic controllers, many of them who have gone through years of training to be able to be in this tower, call out from work because they can't make ends meet. They have to go, maybe as Secretary Duffy was saying during a news conference on Monday, go work Uber and go drive people to be able to make the money they need to be able to live their lives, because again, they got their paycheck right before the government shutdown. Next week, they're supposed to get another one, but at this point, Tom, they don't know if or when that's going to happen because they are going to get their back pay. They obviously are essential workers, so they are having to work through this. But obviously, it's going to be something we're going to have to wait and see as these workers, as these air traffic controllers continue to come to work and do the vitally important work to keep Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson International Airport safe and airports across the country safe,
we're certainly
and the
grateful.
skies above these airports and above our country as well.
Well said, Tyler. We're certainly grateful that they do, but understand the hardships that they face, and we're certainly happy that no operations have been disrupted yet at the world's busiest airport, because that no doubt would have a ricochet effect around the country and indeed around the world. Tyler Finger live at Hartsfield Jackson. Tyler, thanks. Let's talk to somebody who knows a whole lot about traveling and the travel industry. Sean Cudahy. Sean, I hope I am pronouncing your name correct. You are the senior travel writer with The Points Guy, somebody that a lot of us follow to follow industry trends, credit card points, how to use them to travel, things like that. I guess my first question to you, and we'll get to the operational side of this, but the fact that air traffic controllers, TSA agents aren't among those characterized as critical to our federal workforce is just amazing to me. Do you think that in the wake of this shutdown, like so many others where airport operations are being impacted the way they are, lawmakers might reconsider how to classify these people who conduct such a critical role in our government?
Yeah, I think it's going to be something worth watching here, for the future. Obviously, we've seen a number of these shutdowns over the year, several of them dating back, over the last 10 years. And actually, we should point out that's part of what has contributed, among other factors, to this shortage of air traffic controllers that we see today. Obviously, these workers deemed essential that they have to continue coming to work. But, as you heard, they're obviously not getting a paycheck, while the government is shut down.
Well, let's talk about that shortage. There is a shortage. How is a government closure like this going to affect the recruitment process to get the number of air traffic controllers we need up into those towers?
Yeah, we've seen it, time and time again over the last 10 years. You really had three different factors dating back to the early 2010s that have kind of exacerbated this shortage of air traffic controllers that we're left with today. We've had multiple shutdowns, which interrupts hiring and training of air traffic controllers every single time. We had certainly the pandemic and then also sequestration earlier in the 2010s. So a few different factors there. Now, the good news this time around, it seems like a lot of the training and hiring of air traffic controllers, a huge focus right now for the FAA, is continuing. The FAA's academy in Oklahoma City continuing to operate right now, but there is some concern about support staff at those facilities. So, it seems like the impact with hiring and training is going to be a little less than past shutdowns. But time is going to tell, depending on, how long this goes on.
Sure will. Okay, so I'm a passenger. I'm headed to the airport. I'm going to go away for the weekend. What am I looking for, and what tips do you have for travelers who are watching all this and fearful that it might impact their trip some way, somehow?
Yeah, I think a little bit of perspective here. Now, certainly we are seeing some staffing shortages right now. Obviously, there already is an air traffic control staffing shortage, and we're seeing more of it. However, we're not seeing like widespread cancellations and delays. We think about some of the airline meltdowns that we've seen over the last couple of years. We think about the situation that we saw in Newark earlier this year. I would not classify the current disruptions as anything kind of resembling that. Now, as this shutdown goes on, if it continues to go on, we'll kind of see where this heads. I think the biggest risk for travelers are these flight delays. So, if you haven't booked your trip yet, if you're booking a trip, I think avoiding those really tight connections. You think about how many travelers pass through Hartsfield Jackson every single day on like a Delta connecting ticket. If you have that 45-minute connection, I think the delays are going to be much more likely than the cancellation. So, your flight gets delayed an hour. It's not the end of the world if you're just flying nonstop to your destination. So I think that's going to be one tip. And then obviously packing your patience as you head to the airport, and just knowing that there's a chance that you might be, sitting on the plane a little bit longer, maybe bring a bottle of water, and you could end up circling in the skies over the airport for a little bit longer than expected.
Been there, done that. One question before I let you go. For nervous flyers out there, they might be thinking, gee, is my safety impacted here? I mean, are air traffic controllers going to be disgruntled in any way, and might that affect their performance up in the tower? And, is my safety at risk as a flyer?
Yeah, you heard the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, there really reiterate that, our airspace is safe. Air travel is extremely safe, safest mode of transportation. I think that continues. I think the delays that we see when there are staffing shortages are really, the kind of that preventive measure there. They're not just delaying flights for no reason. They're doing it because they can't handle the volume that's coming in, so they slow the air traffic to try to keep things manageable. Unfortunately, that does result in delays, but the most important thing is safety, and I think that continues.
All right, Sean Cudahy with The Points Guy, senior travel writer, with some great insight and perspective into how this government shutdown is going to affect all of us if we're taken to the sky. Sean, thanks so much for joining us. When we come back, we saw a return of the sunshine today as we take a live look outside across downtown Atlanta. It's a beautiful day outside, and the heat is kind of creeping back in. We're going to talk to meteorologist Jonathan Stacy about how the rest of the work week is going to unfold for us weather-wise as we continue.
On sale items. I'm getting things over hundreds of dollars.
Welcome back as we're streaming here in the 3 p.m. hour. Meteorologist Jonathan Stacy joining us in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom talking about the weather. Jonathan, it feels like it's getting nicer, but boy, when you're in the sun, it's hot outside this afternoon.
Oh my, yeah, it blazes a bit because we haven't brought down the humidity yet. Cold front has crept through the area, and this is what it's brought us in terms of rainfall. Nothing at all. A few little specks on either side of I-85 as you look out across North Georgia on this Wednesday. It's a day of transition for us, but those of you who are desperate for some wet weather, this front did not do what it needed to do. Over West Point Lake, it continues to pour in that pond, but what is that doing for us there? As we take a look at things right now, if you drive out I-20 heading towards Augusta, that's where you'll find more fanfare near Hancock County, even some cells still lingering around in portions of Putnam County. But in terms of the immediate Atlanta metro area, we're pretty much out of the window for sizable rain activity. It's pretty quiet across the eastern United States. Look at this. That front has pushed moisture off the eastern seaboard. off and over the I-95. Big area of high pressure is protecting us from tropical systems moving our way. So things, just to be kind of real with you, are kind of boring. But let's take you out to the tropics, go down south here into the very warm waters of the central Atlantic, and it looks like we may be having some issues with some satellite returns coming in here. But we do have a tropical storm in the name of Jerry. It formed yesterday. Let's take a look at the track. We have tropical storm watches that are in effect for the northern islands of the Leeward Islands, I should say, the north end there. This does not include the U.S. Virgin or British Virgin Islands. Nonetheless, it's going to be a close pass. As you can see here, the cone that spans out keeps it as a Cat 1 as we get into the day tomorrow. That storm then makes that north turn that is so familiar to us this season. That north turn pivotal and allowing this system and many other systems not to be a problem for the greater Antilles and for the eastern seaboard. That said, I think even Bermuda may be out the way of this storm as it will curve further to the east as a Cat 1 hurricane. Let's take a look at our exclusive Fox weather model, something you'll only see here on Fox Local and Fox 5 News. You can see that it shows that the storm is a little lopsided and that it's going to have more moisture on its eastern side, and so it's going to graze some of the islands down there. Once again, the northern Leeward Islands, and maybe some showers for Puerto Rico and the island of Hispaniola. But overall, I don't see this being too much of a problem for anybody anywhere. Once again, those lines, those spaghetti plots, a bit too close for comfort, I'd say, for Bermuda, but we're still a few days away. Tropical storm force winds probably won't be an issue as well. So let's bring things back here home. Tom, look at this. We have winds coming in out of the north, 80 degrees in Dunwoody. Good afternoon to y'all over there. 82 in Dallas, 86 over there in Rockdale County. We've got some warm temperatures across the area, but so long to the 80s, because once we bring down the numbers over the next few hours, they will not come back. In fact, tonight we're dropping down to about 63 degrees here in the city, 50s up north. Tomorrow we stammer in the 60s all day long. Hopefully we can break out maybe a 70-degree plus temperature here and or there. But then it's the night after that in which the numbers will fall into the 50s and the 40s. Get ready, get ready. You can go ahead and officially turn off your heat. Or turn off your AC.
Turn off your AC, open some of the windows, get some of that cool.
Yeah, this is a sweet zone. Hear me, Georgia Power, you're not going to like it. This is the sweet zone in which we're not going to do nothing. We're just going to turn it off.
Well, remember the 100+ degree? We had a couple of them last summer. Boy, the air conditioning bills were
my bills tell me the weather in review. I don't need to go and look at any climatology reports. I can just look back on those charts that they provide us with the Georgia Power app and say, oh yeah, that was a heat wave in August because my bill reflects it.
So, but we're rounding the corner now this weekend, and now we're sort of looking ahead into the weekend. It looks like it's going to be beautiful this weekend.
Let's drop this on you real quick. Here's the 7-day forecast.
There you go.
Bam, 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 bam.
Doesn't get much better than that. Just bottle it up. And,
absolutely marvelous.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I'm on vacation.
Oh, good for you.
I'm on vacation.
Hopefully locally.
I'll still be here at work.
Nice.
I'm just on vacation because we're not going to be too busy. So I'm going to come up here next week and have some really fun conversations with you. Good. We're going to have to dig into some stuff. I think there's some things we got to keep on our radar. Fall foliage. Alex and I were talking about that earlier. Alex Forbes, he's off camera, about the latter part of October is when we'll start looking for the changeover in the mountains going into early November. And then we have the time change coming up during the second weekend in November. So there'll be a number of things that we can pick through and maybe a couple bubbles in the tropics. But overall, we're going to relax weather-wise here in Atlanta and North Georgia.
Could use a break, and then we'll enjoy the weather, the beautiful weather while it lasts.
It'll be kind of breezy tomorrow. Just keep that in mind. Breezy and cloudy.
We don't mind breezy. Jonathan Banks. Live look now at Capitol Hill, where the race is on, or the slow walk is on, however you want to characterize it, to reopen the federal government. When will that happen? And who is it impacting? A broad sector of federal workers, many of whom are not getting paid right now, including the folks that we just talked about, air traffic controllers, TSA workers, some of them having to take on second jobs, as our Tyler Fingett reported not too long ago, just to make ends meet. Life is so expensive now, and it's so hard to go without pay that these people are being forced to do what they need to do to keep themselves and their families afloat. So as developments warrant out of Washington, we will, of course, check back in. We hope this government closure ends soon. Meanwhile, there is a statewide effort to keep kids safe in the car when you're driving around. It's such an important issue, and it's one that the governor's office has taken head on. They do it annually, and the Department of Highway Safety is also participating in this effort. It's going to be in several locations across the metro Atlanta area. Eli Jordan previewing one of them. Eli, we're talking about Woodstock, Covington, places where families with new children can go to learn about how to keep their kids safe in the car.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I mean, it's easy enough for us to do what we can to protect ourselves in the vehicle. But if you got a bambino, a kiddo, whatever the parlance of our time, in the back seat of your car, well, you know, if you're a parent, grandparent, babysitter, you're going to have to take care of that kid. You got to know how to install that child seat and make sure it's the proper child seat. That's why the governor's office of highway safety has been teaming up with local law enforcement to inspect kids' car seats, and they were out at the Salem Road Walmart today doing just that. And if the car seats didn't check out, they would provide a free car seat to fit the child that they had with them, and provide a new car seat. And like you said, in this time when everything expensive, every little bit helps, and that's a benefit. And I spoke with one lady who was there getting her car seats inspected, Ashley Baxter, and asked her what she thought about this program.
I'm here today because my niece actually called me and told me they was giving out car seats, and I don't know how correctly to check the car seats, so I came out here so I can get the car seats checked, and that's what we're doing, trying to get it checked to make sure it's either not damaged or expired, and if it is, we'll get a new one.
Little people sitting in a motor vehicle, they can be thrown out of the vehicle or around in the vehicle if they're not properly restrained.
And what are you guys doing? Like, somebody shows up, they got a bad car seat, they're not in any trouble or anything. Just tell me what do you guys do out here?
They're not in any trouble. We just want to check and make sure that the seats that they have is not expired and they are properly installed based on the manufacturer's instructions.
And that was Alan Poole, director of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. And, Tom, this is a really good program. They're going to be in Statesboro tomorrow at the Statesboro Police Department from 12 until 2. So if you're in that area and you're concerned about a car seat, go check them out between 12 and 2 tomorrow at the Statesboro Police Department. But like I said, I mean, grandparents, nannies, aunts, uncles, they need to know this as well, too, because, if you're going to babysitting, taking the kid along with you, you got to protect that kid and make sure your car's safe for him. Tom?
It's something that, because I'm a parent, I have 2 kids, you think you're doing it right. Those things they can be hard to get into the car.
Yep.
You don't know if they're clicked in properly.
Oh, yeah.
You want to keep the kid safe. Are they supposed to be facing forward, backward? What's the age to do that? How big is the car seat supposed to be? So many questions that a parent might have, and it sounds like folks are there to not only answer those questions, but if you are financially challenged, give you the resources you need to keep your kids safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were out there. They had scales. They had measuring tapes out there, checking out the kids, making sure they had the right seats. And, it's been 30 years since I've done, had to install a car seat. And I remember, I missed a couple loops here and there, and I was surprised. I was like, whoa, I'm glad I saw that and got it fixed up right. And, it's really easy to overlook and not have it installed correctly. So, taking your time, stopping at one of these programs, having the police check out your car seat. They know how it's supposed to look. They don't want to, ride up on a car accident and have an injured child. That's one of the worst things that sticks with people, So they want to have a safe child, safe ride, and they'll check it out. And I, highly suggest go get it checked out if you don't, if you have any concerns about that car seat.
Well, we're glad you got it right, too. We love your son. He works here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom editing for us. He's a superb editor, so we're happy you got it right, too.
I've only dropped him a couple times, so he should be all right. Yeah.
Real quick, before you go, Eli, this for folks who want to find this event, because it is an important one, and it is happening in some other places. We mentioned Woodstock. We mentioned Covington. How can people figure out where it is and where to go?
Go to the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. I don't have their website off the top of my head, but the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, they're doing this. And they're doing this with the help of federal highway funds. That's where they're getting the funding to do this, to provide the car seats. But the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, that's where you can find more information.
All right. We're going to work to post it online for folks, too, if they need to find it. Eli Jordan, great info for us live at that event today. Eli, thanks. As we continue, boy, Georgia Tech is on a roll. Their football program is performing just flawlessly so far, literally.
At Reflection.
We're going to talk to their coach one-on-one. There's Myles Garrett doing just that. We're going to hear from Coach as we continue here in the 3 p.m. streaming hour of Fox Local. Don't go anywhere. This has been an amazing season for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, performing at a very high level, undefeated this season, 5-0. And they're hoping to continue that role. We wanted to talk to Coach, figure out what's behind the success. So much is at stake in maintaining that momentum. Our Myles Garrett went one-on-one with head coach Brent Key to find out what he's doing to motivate that team.
Bye week, it offered a chance at Reflection for the first third of this season. You guys have the first undefeated start since 2014. All these, the attention on you guys now. What does that Reflection look like from starting the year unranked to now among the top 15 teams in the country?
Yeah, we got to this bye week, and I thought it was a really good time for a bye for us. It really almost segmented the season into 3 parts. And we talked about the beginning of the season being it's a sprint out the gate. And then the end of the season is that sprint to the finish line. But where so many teams go awry is this middle portion. And that's the endurance phase. And that doesn't mean that you slow down. It doesn't mean that you start to, pace through. It means that you have to ramp it up even more, right? Because you're right in the middle and you can't see the beginning or the end. And I like using, analogies with guys or, be able to compare things so that they can visualize in something in their own mind, their day-to-day with it. So, yeah, it gave us time to reflect. When I talk about reflecting and going back, I'm very proud of this team and the staff and the coaches, the way they came out the first third of the season. Right? So to sit there and act like that didn't happen, I didn't feel like it was the best way to go about it. All right, we had a bye week at the right time where Sunday and Monday, I didn't want coaches and players around each other. Players came in a little bit on Sunday, they were off on Monday. Coaches came in on Monday when the players were off. So there was a good break there from a mental and emotional break, and it's both sides. I mean, it's coaches to players, players to coaches. But I wanted them to sit back and have a chance to enjoy what they'd accomplished. Because now that the bye week is over, right, you don't want that carrying over. You don't want that lingering. Right? This is a new season for us. This is that endurance phase that I talked about. Right? So I thought it was a great time for him to get that in, but also get it out of him.
I know you hate the term, but underdog. Georgia Tech for years has been kind of viewed as that, at least from a national perspective. Now, for the remainder of this regular season, from that national perspective, Georgia Tech's no longer really viewed as that way. How do you separate from going off this undefeated start and all the good that's going on? And I know you say that's in the past, you want to separate that, but kind of using that, a lot of stuff went good. You want to continue that momentum on forward.
Well, I told the team at halftime in the weight game, was it 2 weeks ago? I said, well, boys, we're underdogs again, so let's go play the part. But I could go so many ways with this because there's a lot of depth to that, okay? This is the position that every athlete should want to be in, right? Would you rather be ranked because people believe you're a good football team or you've demonstrated to be a good football team at times, or not? Well, yeah, you take that every single time, right?
All right, Brent Key there, head coach of Georgia Tech, Yellow Jackets, undefeated, going against Virginia Tech this weekend at Bobby Dodd Stadium in downtown Atlanta. It's going to be an amazing game. The students on the Georgia Tech campus are amped that the team is doing so well. Hearing from Coach today that he wants to continue the momentum, but always considers himself the underdog. So thanks to our Miles Garrett for bringing that to us. You know, I don't know if you've heard about it. There's been this talk about the health of Dolly Parton. You know, Dollywood, and Dolly Parton is so popular with so many people. Her sister's coming out saying, please pray for her health, creating all kinds of speculation about Dolly Parton's health. Well, she came out today and said, I ain't dead yet, in a video post. We got it. Take a listen.
Hey, Natalie, bring your camera over here. I want to say something. Well, today's October the 8th, and obviously I'm here doing some commercials for the Grand Ole Opry, which is why I'm dressed kind of like a country western girl. But before I got started, I wanted to say, I know lately everybody thinks that I am sicker than I am. Do I look sick to you? I'm working hard here. Anyway, I wanted to put everybody's mind at ease, those of you that seem to be real concerned, which I appreciate. And I appreciate your prayers because I'm a person of faith. I can always use the prayers for anything and everything. But I want you to know that I'm okay. I've got some problems, as I mentioned, back when my husband Carl was very sick. That was for a long time, and then when he passed, I didn't take care of myself, so I let a lot of things go that I should have been taken care of. So anyway, when I got around to it, the doctor said, we need to take care of this, we need to take care of that. Nothing major, but I did have to cancel some things so I could be closer to home, closer to Vanderbilt, you know, where I'm kind of having a few treatments here and there. But I wanted you to know that I'm not dying. Did you see that AI picture of Reba and me? Oh, Lordy. I mean, they had Reba at my deathbed, and we both look like we need to be buried. But then I thought, oh, my Lord. But if I was really dying, I don't think Reba would be the one at my deathbed. She might come visit me earlier, but anyway, there are just a lot of rumors flying around, but I figured if you heard it from me, you'd know that I was okay. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to say, and I'm not ready to die yet. I don't think God is through with me, and I ain't done working.
All right, we're not ready to lose you yet, Dolly, and we're so glad that she's okay, speaking directly to her fans this afternoon, saying she ain't dead yet, and that she's feeling okay, facing some health problems that she's seeking treatment for, but that there was a post, an AI post generated online with Reba McEntire and Dolly at her deathbed. But of course, that's not true. Dolly looks fantastic, and we're so glad that she's well. Want to thank you for joining us here for the 3 p.m. streaming hour. I'm Tom Haines, live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. Busy afternoon of news. It continues right here, right now.
Fox 5 News at 4 starts right now.
We begin with breaking news. A 5-month manhunt for the last of the escaped Louisiana inmates comes to an end right here in Metro Atlanta. Thanks so much for joining us today for Fox 5 News at 4. I'm Christine Spiro. Authorities from several agencies captured Derek Groves at a home on Deloe Street in Southwest Atlanta after an hours-long SWAT standoff. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes joins us live from the scene where it happened. And Deidre, we're learning more about how Groves was captured. What have you learned?
Learning more, Christine, about how Derek Groves was captured. Now, we got a closer look at the home where he was holed up, apparently, during this hours-long operation to bring him into custody. There's the house that you see right now at the intersection of Honeysuckle Lane and Deloe Drive in Southwest Atlanta. Still a very active crime scene. We've seen several law enforcement officials there in the yard and also going in and out of the home. Of course, Derek Groves is in custody. He was brought out in handcuffs about 2 hours ago at around 2 o'clock this afternoon after an hours-long SWAT standoff. Now, we started getting calls into the Fox 5 newsroom this morning about a major SWAT operation along this stretch of West Cedar Lane off of Deloe Drive here in Southwest Atlanta. Neighbors telling us that an officer got on the bullhorn at one point this morning out front of the residence and called for wanted fugitive Derek Groves to surrender to authorities. Now, 27-year-old Groves was one of 10 inmates who broke out of jail in New Orleans back in May. He was the last remaining fugitive who was still at large. He managed to elude authorities for months before being captured at this house in Atlanta just this afternoon. Now, we heard from law enforcement officials a short time ago. They say the U.S. Marshals Service actually formed a special task force to track Groves down. Here's what they had to say.
Our SWAT team, with all their training and experience, they were able to bring him out. We deployed a number of canisters of gas to help move him throughout the house, which he moved to the basement of the house. Soon after, Clayton County K-9 was deployed in the crawl space of the location and found him in that crawl space.
Now, officials would not disclose how they tracked Groves down. They said he was alone in the house when he was apprehended. One neighbor telling me just a while ago as she stopped here beyond the police tape before neighbors were allowed again to venture down this stretch of road. She told me that she thought the house was abandoned, saying that she had not seen any activity there. So she's somewhat surprised to learn that this wanted fugitive was in fact holed up, although we don't know for how long or extended a period he was here at the home. But she said she was surprised to learn that anyone was there at the home, saying she thought that it actually was vacant. She also said that this is a very quiet neighborhood and that something like this happening here, she says that it is just highly unusual. She's just shocked that it all culminated here in her quiet community. And that's latest here in Southwest Atlanta. Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
New Orleans is a long ways away. Deidre, thanks so much for the latest from there. Well, as Deidre said, Groves, along with 9 other inmates, escaped the St. Tammany Parish Correctional Center on May 16th. Investigators say the inmates broke a jail cell door and breached a wall behind a toilet. You see them running, escaping from the jail here. Back in July, Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill charged all 10 men with simple escape. The accused escapees could serve 2 to 5 years if convicted of the new charge. Just an hour ago, we heard from authorities in New Orleans about Groves' arrest. Speaking with reporters, Orleans Parish District Attorney Jason Williams said he looks forward to holding Groves accountable.
Everybody is sighing a collective sigh of relief, knowing that a person who was facing multiple life sentences is now in custody, and we look forward to holding him accountable for the crimes that he was already convicted of and the other crimes that he committed.
Authorities say they will focus their attention on getting Groves back to New Orleans and finding out how he made it all the way here to Atlanta. More than a dozen of the inmates' family and friends have been accused of providing food, cash, transportation, and shelter to these escapees. Groves' girlfriend, Ariana Burton, was arrested and charged back in June on felony charges of conspiracy to commit simple escape. 2 other jail employees also face charges. Louisiana State Police arrested Connie Whedon and Sterling Williams for their alleged roles. Authorities have accused Whedon of sending money via a phone app to Jermaine Donald, one of the other escapees. She faces a felony charge of accessory. Sterling Williams, who works as a maintenance man in the facility, faces 10 counts ranging from simple escape to malfeasance in office. According to his attorneys, Williams told law enforcement that one of the escapees asked him to turn off the water to the cell. And instead of reporting the inmate, Williams reportedly did as he asked and turned off the water to the same cell where the inmates escaped. Now, this is a developing story. We will continue to bring you updates on air and on our website. You can find a link to the story, including images of the moment Groves was removed from the home here in Atlanta, on fox5atlanta.com. The Clayton County Sheriff, Levon Allen, has arrested 2 of his own corrections officers for allegedly smuggling drugs into the jail and an inmate for receiving the contraband. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor broke this story at our 3 p.m. streaming newscast on Fox Local. Angelique joins us now from the Clayton County Jail with the disturbing story.
Well, good afternoon to you, Christine. The Clayton County Sheriff says he is very disappointed by these allegations. He says not one, but 2 of his correction officers who took an oath to uphold the law are tonight accused of breaking it. Rolled tobacco, cigarettes, cell phone chargers, and narcotics continue to make their way into the Clayton County Jail. The accused may surprise you. Corrections Officer Ashley Victoria Lewis Allen and Canine Officer LaShawn Branch. They are both sworn to uphold the law, but the sheriff's captain says they broke it.
It is tough because it's just a reminder that we still, after all the warnings from the sheriff, after the warnings from other command, after officers being arrested, even in our roll calls, that people are still willing to put themselves at risk and other officers at risk, inmates at risk, to bring contraband into the jail.
The captain says the employees go through a metal detector but hide the illegal substances on their person. It was actually employees watching surveillance cameras that noticed unusual activity.
We have a checkpoint, but the problem is if you put something completely on your person, it's difficult to find that in a checkpoint.
Captain Bennett says inmates will pay top dollar for these items. Lewis Allen reportedly told jail officials she was having financial problems and turned to selling contraband. Sheriff Allen says 3 are arrested now, including an inmate who received the contraband, but the investigation continues.
The sheriff is not tolerating it at all. He has a zero tolerance policy of it, and you will be found and you will be arrested.
Now, the sheriff's office has identified the inmate in all of this as Don Sheldon Lowe. He was arrested for hijacking a motor vehicle and violating probation. We are reporting live in Clayton County. Angelique Proctor, Fox 5 News.
Angelique, thank you so much. Let's take you outside now and give you a check of the weather forecast. A look at our Omni-Cam showing some beautiful skies. Turned out to be a nice day again here today in North Georgia. Meteorologist Jonathan Stacy joining us here now. Started off, it seems like cloudier, but sunny right now.
Yeah, after 3 straight cloudy days, the day turned around on a dime as a cold front came through. That's the day that you'd expect the majority of the cloud cover, but today changed as that cold front pressed further to the south. So the big question is, where is it right now? We can find it on Fox 5 Live Viper Radar. You can see that cold front is sweeping across the eastern seaboard, but it has to make a pass through North Georgia before it can full out make its passage on and off our shores. Let's take a look at Fox 5 Live Viper Radar a bit closer to home. You can see that there is no action happening to the north of the metro area, but as we look down to the south, we'll find a few cells that have now rolled out of Putnam County. But first, let's check on the action down here in Upson County between 19 and 341 over Yatesville. We've had a cell bubble up there, still dealing with some light showers there in Thomaston there. Things are starting to dry out in Putnam County as those cells continue to roll over Lake Oconee and Sinclair. Other than that, it's not much energy out there unless you're traveling out I-20 heading towards Augusta. This cold front, it's not packing a punch as it comes through the area. There's not a lot of moisture for it to work with, and there's not a steep drop-off of temperatures yet. That's to come. We'll have to deal with some clouds and some moderate temperatures tomorrow before we feel the real fall chill. In terms of rainfall, yeah, it wasn't too impressive at all. In fact, it looks like we had our highest amounts coming from Chattooga County up there just to the north of Somerville, less than a half inch. Trace amounts from Calhoun to Rome, going out there to Pickens County.